talk about this morning is what Jesus' message really was. We're approaching Easter time, and we are comfortable in unity. We talk a lot about the Christ, but some people get a little uncomfortable with the Jesus-ness that happens around this time of year. But this is the radical message of Jesus that I want to share today. Jesus was not this sort of namby-pamby guy who just wished that everybody would be a little nicer to each other. If you get that from Christianity, then you've missed the boat, is what I believe. And I can talk today. I'm just telling you that you're safe, whether you're comfortable with Jesus or just comfortable with the Christ Spirit. I am an interfaith, interspiritual minister, so I've got you covered in all ways. And yet, the message of Jesus has lasted for 2,000 years. And I will tell you, I'm a Texan. I grew up in the Church of Christ. Anybody? No? Okay, well, good. There were lots of things from my childhood religion that were quite lovely. I had a relationship at 12 years old with Jesus. He was my best friend. I talked to him all the time. I wish I could have that innocent faith that I have at the age of 12. But as I grew older, and I was following all the rules that I had been told that Jesus laid out for me. Do this, don't do this, this is good, this is bad, you're really wrong if you did this, and you're going to hell if you do this. All of those rules, I did my best to follow them. And I was living a life that was very, very unhappy. And I couldn't understand why the people who didn't seem to be following the rules at all looked like they were having a really good time. And I wasn't. And I'll tell you, my personal transformation, the transformation of my mind to open up and allow a larger view of the Christ, of Jesus, of God, of this world and the universe, was when I was pregnant with my daughter. I was probably, maybe 3-4 weeks pregnant. I wasn't even feeling anything. I knew she was in there. I didn't know it was a her. But I had this feeling that this entity that was within me was somebody that I loved so much, not knowing her name or her gender or anything about her personality, whether she was going to be good or bad. I knew that I loved her so much that no matter what she ever did in her life, there would never come a time when I went, that was it, that was your last chance, you're out of here. Burn in hellfire. Sorry, there'll be wailing and gnashing of teeth, and you will call for the mountains to fall down upon you, but they will not fall. You will continue to burn, okay? These are the messages of my childhood, by the way. That's in the Bible. And I knew that was not possible. And so I came to a choice point where I went, either God is that judging God that loves us. God is love. It says that in the Bible too. But then says, yeah, but that was your last chance. And now you have to burn in hell forever. Or God is truly a God of love. And if I, as a human parent, can love that much, how could God be petty enough to not love as well as I could? So I came to this choice point and I decided God is a God of love. And that began to transform my life. And I found the Unity Church. I found 12-step programs. And that has been my path for the last 30-some-odd years. So for a while I got kind of scared of Jesus. I got kind of mad at Jesus. Like, this load that you fed me did not work. And I have come full circle and come back to see the wisdom not only of the Christ, but of Jesus himself. What an amazing, amazing person he was. And I want to dispel a couple of the myths about him. You hear a lot. He was just a lowly carpenter, the son of a lowly carpenter. Well, Jesus lived in Nazareth, in Galilee, which was on one of the major Roman highways it was a trade highway between this part of the country and all of the spices and wonders of the East. There is proof that there are trade goods that came from as far as China, Thailand, India, and Korea. And if they were trading all those goods along that road, and Nazareth was right on that spice road, then what kind of ideas were also being traded at that time? It's very, very likely that Jesus was early on exposed to the the wisdom traditions of the East. And if you listen to his teachings, they're much closer to that wisdom tradition than they are to the moralist that some modern-day Christian traditions would have you believe that he was. And if you listen to his parables, they're very much like a Zen koan. He doesn't say, do this and don't do this. He tells stories and lets you make up your own mind. And sometimes those stories are hard, and I want to go through a couple of them that we know really well and talk about what they could mean. And Jesus' message was radical. What he said was that we are one. No less and no more than that. When he said, love your neighbor as yourself, notice that he didn't say, love your neighbor as much as you love yourself. He said, love your neighbor as yourself, meaning your neighbor is yourself. Can you let that sink in for a minute? I love you as my family means you are my family. I love you as a brother means I consider you a brother. To love someone as myself means I consider you myself. We are one. We are the same. And that was Jesus' radical message. In the Gospel of Thomas, which was one of uncovered in the 50s with the Dead Sea Scrolls, he says in Logion 7, and I just love this one, Yeshua said, whoever searches must continue to search until he finds. When he finds, he will be disturbed. And having been disturbed, he will be astonished. And then he will reign over everything. So what that means to me is not that when we find, then we'll just feel good about ourselves and pat ourselves on the back. It means that when we really, really dig deeply enough into the truth and come face to face with, do we really love others as ourselves? Do we really believe that we are all one? That it is disturbing. And if you can stay with the uncomfortability of that disturbing truth long enough, you will be astonished and amazed. And at that point, there's nothing that's not open to you. You are one with the whole world, and the whole world is one with you. Jesus also said in that same Logion, happy is the lion that the human will eat. So the lion becomes human. Happy is the lion that the human will eat, so the lion becomes human. And foul is the human that the lion will eat, and the lion still will become human. So the way I see this is that the lion is our lower nature. And if our humanity can become one with our lower nature, then that's where happiness dwells, that we humanize our lower nature. However, he says if the lion eats the human, it doesn't stay a lion, it still becomes human, but it's a human that's controlled by its animal tendencies. And that is not the happy way to live, according to Yeshua or Jesus. So Jesus did not come with an easy, pleasant message. He says in Matthew chapter 10, verse 34, do not suppose that I came to bring peace to the world. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. You familiar with that? You know, when we say peace, love, and happiness, Jesus said, I didn't come for peace. I didn't come to make you comfortable. It's that old saying, I came to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. Jesus' message was, wake up. That's pretty much what the Buddha's message was. Wake up. That's all you have to do is wake up. And in Luke, he says, for whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me will save it. In the Aramaic, it translates closer to whoever will give up his soul for my sake will save it. When you let go, that's when you receive everything. When you let go of individual I, me, mine, tiny little Melinda, when I can truly let go of that, is when I can receive all of the riches of the universe that the Christ has in store for me. So I want to talk about about the Good Samaritan. Are we all pretty much familiar with that parable, the Good Samaritan? Well, I think we've lost some of the point of that. Yeah, the Samaritan was good. A priest passed by this poor guy who'd been beat up and left on the side of the road by robbers. The priest was like, well, I can't get my vestments dirty, and he kept walking. And some Pharisees came by and said, well, we can't really deal with that, and left. And the guy who stopped was a Samaritan, and the Samaritan paid for the guy to get well. We know that story, but what we might not know is the context of this, which is that Samaritans were considered unclean. Not just we don't like those people, but they were idolaters. They were idol worshipers. They were pagans. They were, and worse than regular pagans because they were Jewish pagans. It's like, how can you be a Jew and also be worshiping all these statues? It doesn't make any sense. And when people in Jesus' time in his community in Galilee made the trip to Jerusalem, Samaria is right there in the middle. And they would take a long road that would have to cross the Jordan Valley twice to get to Jerusalem, just so they wouldn't have to pass through Samaria. They were that ostracized. They were considered that evil. So just the fact that it was a Samaritan that did the good work was the lesson in itself. That doesn't matter what you call yourself, doesn't matter where you live, it doesn't matter how you dress, doesn't matter how you believe. If you are kind to others, then you are doing the will of God. The Samaritan saw that he was one with a man on the side of the road. The good Jewish priest and the Pharisees did not see that they were one with the man on the side of the road. And I love this message. Jesus says it doesn't matter. And one of the things I got from the church of my childhood is that, yes, it does matter. We're here, which means we're going to be in heaven. Everybody else is somewhere else, which means, they're not. And that was really, it was spoken, but there was sort of an unspoken superiority that, we're doing good. And you had to dress right to come to church, because it matters how you look. It matters what you believe. It matters where you go to church. All of that, I was told, mattered. And what I know that Jesus said is that none of that matters. If you have love, then you are with God. If you are with love, then you are with God. If you have love in your heart, then you have God in your heart. And another couple of the common parables that I hear, the prodigal son. Did that parable ever bother anybody? It's so cool that the first son, he got his inheritance. He went out into the world. He wasted it on wine, women, and song, gambling, off in the big city. And it occurred to him at one point that his father's pigs ate better than he did. And so he decided to come home and ask his father, can I be your servant? Because I know that as your servant, I already used my inheritance. I don't deserve to be your son, but as your servant, I will live better than I live out in this big wide world. And the father, before the son even got there, he saw him in the distance. He was waiting, arms open, and he accepted him into his embrace and said, of course you are my son. Fetch the gold ring, kill the fatted calf. We're having a party. Because my son who has been lost is now found. Great story. The part that always stuck with me is, what about the second son? He says, I've been here all the time. I've been working in your business every day. And you're going to kill the fatted calf for him? You never even gave me a goat for my friends' parties. Literally, he says that. What's up with that? Well, it feels unfair, doesn't it? Does that feel unfair to anybody? It used to drive me crazy because I was the second son. In my family, I was the one who was never the squeaky wheel. I did what I was supposed to do. And it seemed like my brothers and sisters got all the attention. They were always getting bailed out of jail and stuff like that. I really identified with that. They kill the fatted calf for them, but what about me? And to me, this parable is very much pointed not only toward the son who went astray and was accepted, but Jesus says it doesn't matter. Not only does it not matter how bad you were when you went out into the wide world, it doesn't matter how good you were when you stayed home. God loves us all the same. And that feels really good when you're the guy who's been out being prodigal. And it kind of feels unfair when you're the guy that's been staying home. And so the challenge is more to me. The challenge is more to that second son. Can I open up my heart enough to say that truly we are all loved the same? That it doesn't matter that I was good and he was bad. Another parable that illustrates this point is when Jesus talked about the workers in the field, and the landowner was paying them a certain amount for a day's work. And several workers came toward the end of the day and worked only the last couple of hours. And when it was time to pay, the landowner paid every single worker the same amount. And the workers who had been there all day said, "This is not fair. This is not fair. We worked longer than them." And the landowner said, "Before you started working today, we agreed that this is what I was going to pay you. So I'm not taking anything away from you by giving something to them." Is anybody seeing some sort of political parallels? That sometimes those of us who have been privileged can feel almost as if something is being taken away from us when other people start to receive the level that we have become accustomed to. But the truth is, nothing has been taken from us. That God cannot give someone else something that is not already yours. God cannot give anyone something that does not already belong to you. And that's the secret to the kingdom, is that we are one. We are one. And fairness doesn't have anything to do with it. I was born with a fairness gene, but that's not fair. I want it to be fair. I want everything to be fair. Well, you know what? What's better than fairness? Absolute, universal, unconditional love. And we get there when we get there. Some of us are lucky enough to not have to go to the city and eat with the pigs in order to realize what our value is. But we're no less valuable. And those of us who do have to swim with the pigs for a while before we realize what our value is, our value becomes no less because of having had that experience. Oneness. That's huge. Oneness isn't some sort of like, oh, we're all one. Isn't this a happy thing? Oneness is hard. Oneness is challenging. Oneness is, can you not fight back when someone says something that seems so unfair and so wrong to you? Oneness is, can you not try to balance the scales by cutting the rug out of someone else who you feel has unfairly gotten more than you got? Oneness is, and even more than that, can you do that for a loved one? I'm not going to beat anybody up for hurting me, but someone hurts my child, I might think about it. Oneness means no one else's child is any less important than my child. It goes against our human nature. It goes against our human nature. But when we can get there, says Jesus, says the Buddha, then the kingdom is ours. Then there is nothing that does not belong to us. There is no height that we cannot reach. That is the message. So I don't think that when I use the word God, I just mean the word love. I truly don't believe that God is loving, but God is love. The very concept of love in the world is God in action. And so, does love want us to be complacent and comfortable? I don't believe so. Love wants us to open our eyes. Jesus dares us to do things a different way. An eye for an eye is fair. He took my eye, I take his eye. But our human nature leads us to a point, well, okay, maybe it was fair that you took my eye, but now I'm mad, so I'm going to have to take your leg. Well, then I have to take your leg so we can make it fair. And the whole world is, as Gandhi said, blind and toothless and legless. So when we can go beyond fair and do it the way Jesus said to do it, and that was mind-blowing. Can you imagine the Pharisee who had done it all right and had all the rules written out and had followed all the rules? The Pharisees were that second son. And when Jesus sat and had lunch with the tax gatherers and the prostitutes, instead of inviting the Pharisees to tea, that's what made him so mad. They didn't want to be one with these people. They'd worked so hard to be better than these people. There is no better. There is no better, and there's no worse. And that is the message. So, do I need Jesus in my life? We talk a lot in Unity about the Christ Spirit, which is that love of God, which is everywhere present and dwells in every single one of us. So, do I need Jesus? I don't necessarily need Jesus, except I'm a human. And when I need a path to follow, and I can look at another human who followed a path, a radical path of wisdom, when I have an example to follow, that helps me. That makes it a lot easier for me to do what I need to do in this life in order to begin to realize my oneness with you. Jesus said, whatever you do for others, you have done for me. Whatever you do to others, you have done to me. It's a hard way to live. It's scary. And I don't believe that Jesus said these things in order for us to judge ourselves and to constantly say we're not good enough, or to judge other people and say you're not good enough. I think the final message of oneness is a message of worthiness, that we're all worthy, no matter where we are on the path, no matter what we're doing in our human lives. We are all spirits with the same worthiness. So when I'm looking around for a model, then yes, Jesus is my model, and I will follow the way of Christ. And I choose to find the point. I think if we're all supposed to be just a little nicer, if that's what we think Christianity is, then we're missing the point. And the point, when Jesus said, I have come to bring a sword, doesn't mean that he came to bring war. It means that he came to cut through, I believe, he came to cut through our earlier ideas of what is right and what is fair. And if we're going to get the point of that sword, then the point is that we get to keep searching until we find. And when we're disturbed, we get to sit with being disturbed until we are astonished. And when we are astonished, then the whole kingdom belongs to us. Thank you.
Search for glory a million different ways in their solitary faces, working at it hard each day. But if they'd stop and take the time to question why they care, they might just start to find there's still room for sharing. It's like we go around in circles when there's no love in our lives. Just an empty game we're playing. All we do is mark the time. And if we get our name in the papers and make a lot of money, have we satisfied our hunger story our dreams are all made of, and we all need someone to share in this great prize. You know the only glory, it's to love and be loved. It's to love and be loved, to love and be loved. And we're all driven by desire for something in our lives, climbing always higher and higher, always searching for the light. And what a glorious adventure when the wings of love enfold you and lift you up above to find that the search is over. You know that the only glory is to love and be loved. It's the ageless story dreams are all made of, and we all need someone to share in this great, great prize. You know the only glory, it's to love and be loved. It's to love and be loved, to love and be loved. It's to love and be loved. It's to love and be loved, to love and be loved. It's to love and be loved. It's to love and be loved, to learn, be loved, be loved, be loved. It's to love and be loved. It's to love and be loved, to love and be loved.